Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Ask Me Anything session. This is just a quick little session, very casual, where we can talk about issues. Today, I believe we're talking about backlogs, things that are, pressure points for your business. But it's a very casual conversation. Basically, we can talk about anything you like. And it's a chance for you to meet the team. So I'm Nancy. We have Elena and Alex, Kim, as everybody knows. And we have Christian as well. So welcome.
Hello.
And I'm just going to pass it over to Alex. He just has a few words to say.
Yes, so this session is about, as Nancy mentioned, like ask us anything, right? So, and before we let you, we want actually to hear your stories, your challenges. But before that, I just want to provide consulting, technical consulting, training, webinars, do-it-yourself solutions. And we develop many stuff, on the web as well, some KPI boards. And since 2007, we started offering that data loaders to QD user communities, which is very distinct pieces of functionality that helps with the data maintenance, with the data management processes. As we saw during our consulting practices, we noticed a lot of trends, like a lot of challenges people face, and then we come up with the solutions. So now it's become popular. And these days, some people just know us only for the data loaders. Okay, and challenges we hear as we help many people. We hear stories like cumbersome data maintenance, right? Or data scattered across systems. So, for example, we hear a story like from our customer who. They said the direct words were something like, "Our staff is it's just too complicated to use the base best pricing module in QED. It's cumbersome, right?" So, and they decided to store the pricing outside of the system in Excel spreadsheets. But if you can imagine, thousands upon thousands of records that you have to maintain in a best pricing logic, not only have to understand how this logic works, but also you have a time and resources to maintain this the contract pricing, the promotional pricing, and then et cetera. So that's a lot of work, and then not only work but also it's really cumbersome. That was their word. And then they decided not to deal with it and then store all this pricing outside of it, like in Excel spreadsheets. And as you can imagine, every time they would enter an order for a customer and the product, they have to verify it against the spreadsheets. And it's very, time consuming, right? Like with the data loader, when the data loader is actually, you can see clearly what you have for some criteria, so you can easily understand what you have and what's the pricing is, et cetera. So once they purchased this data loader, that was a different story. So another case we had was very similar to this one, and the comments were pretty much similar, like cumbersome and the data maintenance. So our other customer, they decided to store forecast outside of the system. And QED is no longer the single source of truth, right? So as a result, of course, their planning efforts are different, right? So there's the planning, they wouldn't be able to plan properly accordingly in the system. MRP wouldn't know about the forecast and then all that, different things. So, and the other customer also had a similar problem with the routing, right? So the routing was kind of like, a lot of effort to maintain in the system. And similarly, they wouldn't be able to plan properly in the system because important pieces of information were missing or lacking in QED for successful planning, right? So this is kind of the session we want to encourage you to share your challenges, and then not necessarily related to the data maintenance, but some might be any subject you have.
Good. I appreciate talking with everybody. I don't know how many other people are on the call here. I see 3 of you, Olin and Nancy and Alex. That's
Yes.
great. One of the questions I had earlier was on your data loaders. So on one of the recent migrations I did, we did a lot of effort to get the business relations and suppliers and customers and customer ship to data all set up and configured in a spreadsheet, and then we ended up loading them through the Accelerator solution. And I had asked earlier about the data loaders. Do you have data loaders for the business relation and customer create, supplier create?
Yeah, we do have, first of all, we do have business relation. We have a customer create, customer update, supplier create, supplier update, bank maintenance as well. Right, so these are available for EE. And then as far as financials, there's we have journal entry data loader for EE as well. Right, so if you'd like to get a trial, so we can provide that for all of this that you mentioned. And there's different lists on our website where different loaders are listed. And you look at one and maybe thinking this is it, right? So, but there's some other places where we have those listed as well. But the best way is, of course, to ask if not sure. We do have that and can provide.
Alex, this is me. You might reference the webinar that we just did in March on the business relationships
Thank you, Don. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, we can send you a link to that webinar where we talk about the this. Yeah, hoping that helps with the question. Please.
Yeah, review them. Thanks, Don.
Yeah, so Nathan, I think we can also set up a separate call as well if you want to go into more details.
Good idea.
And you have more detailed questions. We can certainly set up a call between you, Alex, Don, myself, and anyone else that you'd like to discuss business relations in EE.
Good to hear you.
Yeah, Andreas, one of Alex's programmers, has put together a pretty nice little business relationship loader that creates the business relationship and then you can use the other standard loaders, the customer and supplier, for loading the individuals. But we've got a pretty good solution for it in the EE now.
So I have used loaders. I've used Sim. I've used Accelerator, and so on. I have not used 32 soft, so I can't really speak to you what you have. But just to try to answer some of the questions, and these may not be viable depending on how cumbersome or not cumbersome they are. But you just remind me, you had a user asking me to inactivate some suppliers, to inactivate this. Yesterday I had a ticket for that, and it reminded me that there's Excel integration. So that's one of the tools that's built into the Qt product. I don't know if you've used that or not, but I've used it a little bit. Sometimes it's not as obvious for the errors and things like that. You have to, just like Sim, you kind of have to go through the motion of manually entering the data to figure out what that error is. But there's a lot of options now. I think there's, as you can see from this call, there's a lot of options. You've got to choose what works for you. In my case, I'm the only IT person supporting 150 users. So I've put this out to the user. I've sent them instructions on how to do this inactivation of suppliers using Excel integration. And they may come back to me once I told them we have a copy environment that they can play in. I've directed them to play there because, as you can tell, I can't manage. I can't do all the stuff that the company needs. But Excel is off the menu, so they're able to use it.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, that's a very valuable point as well. So there is Nathan. There is Excel integration for financial functions. It's built in. It's part of the QAD core functionality, right? So you can use those functions. And as Tony mentioned, there's a supplier, for example, supplier activation, deactivation, right? So you can use that. So and then we do have the loader as well. Like there's a choice, right? So as Tony suggested, there's at least you have a different options how to do stuff, right? Like with the business relation, I don't think there's a one for business relation as an Excel integration, but we do have a loader, and then or you can use Accelerator to do that. The disadvantage with Accelerator, it's not easy for QD end users to use. Like some people find it's okay. Like we met some advanced power users who could work with Accelerator solution, and for them it's not a problem. But as I see, a majority don't want to deal with it because it's too complicated or it's kind of cumbersome. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So the data loader is basically a solution where it's straightforward. There's spreadsheet with two buttons, download, upload, right? So there's nothing wrong to you can do it's like a bulletproof and then easier to use, easier to follow solutions for people. So that's just a comment. But thank you, Tony. Yeah, if please go on.
So just a follow-up question, Alex. Does the 30, like I said, I have not used have not your product, so I'm assuming it's like Accelerator, it's similar to that in terms of it can bring out data and it can upload data, right? So you can is that correct?
Yes and no in some sense. As far as the functionality itself, yes, there's like Accelerator is basically it's a framework which you can use to develop tools like tools for the end users. Whereas our data loaders, these are each designed as a ready to use function. So for example, you can see on my screen customer price list, and this can be installed like within 30 minutes. You can use it, right? So you don't need to get any training or anything. As long as you know how the best the customer price list works, the menu works in QAD, then you easily can understand like what this user does and which fields, what field represents here in the spreadsheet. So you know your data set, and it's just another sort of like a tool. Whereas the Accelerator is it's a framework. You have to have some technical knowledge in order to be able to use it, like what to do with it and how it works and etc. Right. So in other words, you need to invest into the training into to develop these tools. We have a big article like what it is, like the differences between Accelerator and the data loaders. If I can show you here on my screen, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got a good point. There's a cost, right? At QXtend Accelerator, there's a cost component to it.
Yeah,
there's
a cost. There's expertise, right? Like for SimLoad, for example, or Accelerator, you have to know certain technical things in order to use like SimLoad or QXtend Accelerator. Whereas the data loader is pretty much like if you know how to use the menu, right? So that's enough for you can use the data loader with no training. There's of course there's a cost for it, but it's not as much as like for all the other options.
Tony, would you be interested in taking a look, trialing one of our data loaders, and so you can compare the Accelerator versus the data loader?
Yeah, installation is quite simple, right? So and prior to make decisions, you want to compare different solutions like side by side. And with the data loader, there's not a problem, right? So we can give you the trials for 60 days, and you can run it, see the results, show results to your team, to your management, and compare with the other solutions, right? So without spending any money. right?
I just want to add, Alex, please correct me if I'm wrong. The difference between data loaders and Accelerator or SimLoad is that in data loaders you do pre-validation and errors analysis. So basically, once you give the loader to the users, they'll be able to work with data themselves. So you don't need to send them back and forth, and it's easy. First, we pre-validate everything that goes into corresponding QED function, and we show specific errors for specific values. So if they know that there is a wrong analysis code, like on Alex's screenshot, then they know what analysis code exactly on what line. So it's easy to fix, and plus data loader, we have different types of them. Some of them are like data loaders, you download, upload, but we have a lot of loaders who do a lot of extra. For example, extra data processing before data will go into QED. For example, with we have AR cache data loader when you can receive the remittance file from the customer, 820, for example, open it in the data loader with all the information parsed, then validate against QED data, means pulling into Excel the corresponding invoices and then process payment. The same with AP voucher or like planning tools. It's we do a lot more various functions and analysis in addition to data download and upload itself. So that's basically there, like by its individual, like small apps by itself, if you can call it.
Yeah, that's very good point. Thank you, Elena. That's it's not just the download and upload, right? So we really look into the process itself, like whether it's a challenge in this particular, like for example, cache application or like price list in this case, like in my screen, like where's the problem? And the problem is not only the the maintenance itself. The problem is they have to, like, first of all, the volume, right? So that's one thing, but also have to be correct, right? So have to be analyzed and have to be like, different cases, like what if it's a quantity breaks or there's all different kind of things, right? So people need to use properly, and most of all, so it should be in QED as a single source of truth. Because if it's outside of QED, that's a bigger challenge. When people don't use, data sets in QED, but rather store it somewhere, it's a, whole different story.
I have two questions, if I may.
Sure.
One on the pre-validation. Does it use the QED logic? So, and if, for example, if I have a customization through ICT, let's say, is it going to use my custom logic on the screen? My second question is, how does it connect to the database? Is it a direct connection? Yeah. And if so, what's the security like?
Yeah, well, first of all, there are 5 layers of validation, and 3 of them relate to pre-validation. And so there's a pre-validation. So, and then with your question, like if you have a custom logic in it, so the layer number 3, this is exactly the layer where we look into your rule, right? And then you tell what you want to do. Like if you say, okay, it may not have to do with the security, like who can use it, etc., but also to, for example, this person only can do like only this field, for example. No, just pretend this is different one, or the other user only can update this field, or all of these users have to, or the values in this field, like QED allows you to certain values in this field, but you want to restrict it even more, or you have a hidden field, for example, in the system which you would like to update with a certain values, but it's not part of QED standard screen, and you want this piece to be here in this in this screen, in this data loader. So these are the things that we need to know. We ask you, okay, what it is, right? So whether it's implemented through your custom logic or ICT or Tailor Pro, so you tell us, okay, you want this specific, change or specific validation to be in place, and we do it for you. And you have the loader with that rule. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you. The second question about the connection to QAD and security.
Yeah, good point. Well, there are 3 levels of security, right? So there's you have to have user credentials to be able to use the data loaders, and then have to have have to be a part of the group who have access to that menu, right? Because each loader associated with the QED menu and with the so you have to be part of the group. And then this third layer is site entity security, right? So it's not enough for you to have user credentials, but and access to the menu, but also you have to be authorized to use a specific site and entity data.
That's more about
in addition,
like database security, sending the data from an Excel file to the database through the network.
Well,
There's some security protocols in place for that.
Yeah, really, the Excel itself doesn't have any data in it, right? So there's no security setup. There's nothing. It's just empty, spreadsheet with the macros. This is it. There's no data in it, right? So other than just the connection, like if you click setup, it knows where to connect to. But this is it. There's no user. There's no group security or anything, or any data in it. It's just empty. And then everything is in QAD. So once you click, for example, download, it connects to QAD and checks, like prompts you, okay, what's your user ID password, right? So and then checks, do you have access to associated QAD menu? If you don't, then it'll bring message saying, no, you can't use the spreadsheet. Right? So that's how it's done.
Maybe if I can interject, is Christian.
Sure.
I think Tony was mostly asking about if the data transmitted between Excel, what you see here, the data that needs to be loaded into QED and the backend is encrypted or not. The security about that part. Is that right,
okay.
Tony?
It was Nathan, wasn't it?
I think it was Nathan.
Or Nathan was asking? Oh, sorry, I thought it was.
It is Nathan. And yeah, it's more about when you're connecting to the QED database. Apparently, you're doing a direct connect to the QED database.
No.
And my question was about that level of security, and is there encryption between the connection and transferring the data and things like that?
There's no encryption when we send data. We do have encryption of the user and password, or just the password, depending what the clients. In general, we don't do that, but clients required encryption of the user or password at least. So we can do that. The data we don't encrypt. I mean, it's just too much data, but we could, if really needed. We don't really connect directly to the database in the sense that we don't load the data directly into the database tables. We just go through the QED program. So we feed the data sort of like a SIM-like, if you will. We call the QED program, prepare a text file with the input data, and we load it.
Yeah, so
we can also do some direct, as Alex mentioned, if you have some custom fields which you want to load and they're not part of the screen, of the QED screen over your customization, if your customization is a UI trigger which will not get triggered when you do the SimLoad, then we could write directly into the table field after we validate that the data is correct according to your custom rules.
Yeah, but basically there's a set of principles that we learned over the years of helping QED users. So at no point it should create any problems to QED users or to IT department, right? So and then that is exactly like what Christian just said. There's no, first of foremost, it's there's no direct update QED database. We update the maintenance program. We send clean data to the maintenance program. And how do we know if it's safe? data, if it's clean and safe data, because we have these 5 layers of validation. Right? So in each piece, actually, to make sure only good stuff is there, right? And then that's the difference between the data loaders and SimLoad, or data loaders and Accelerator. With the Accelerator, you have an error checking, but the error is not like really human readable, if you will. You wouldn't be able to understand like what does it mean, the error, or clearly understand, like end user wouldn't. Whereas with the data loader, it's it's very easy to, you just place mouse over the red cell and it'll tell you exact same message as if you would enter this value into the QED menu, right? So that's the difference. Make sense?
How does the data loaders integrate with SE version as opposed to EE version? And how do they really, are they really more useful than the Accelerator?
Well, thank you, Paul, for this. It's a very good question. Useful in the sense of they both kind of do the same thing, right? So they massively can update. With either tool, you can update, do the massive changes, or create new data sets, create new records in QAD. The Accelerator, the difference is that this Accelerator is the framework. In other words, this is the tool that you can use to create end product and like a loader, if you will. Whereas the data loader, it's already ready to use, right? So it's already built and then it's simple to use, versus the Accelerator, which is framework. You can do lots of different things, but you need to know how and to invest time to having the expertise and the knowledge and skills to work with it. Right? Whereas the data loaders is basically for the end users, designed for the end users, not for much for power users or IT department, but versus to your end users. So you give them these tools, like as I said, 30 minutes and you can use it, right? So that's why we offer and actually encourage people to have a trial, like 60-day trial, so you can take a look and see the results that it produces. Versus Accelerator, you put it on, and you need to, if you don't have this expertise how to use it, you need to get a training, get some maybe consultants to help you with configuration to make it work, etc. Then it may not be as quick as 32 sub data loaders. Right? So that's the difference. And of course, there's a different cost and different. But does it make sense?
Okay, but as far as the data loaders that you have that you're putting out there, are they only applicable to EE, or are they usable on SE?
Both, yeah, both. We actually have more for SE than for EE. Right? So now it's adaptive as well.
Actually, I'm an end user, but I was on our transition team when we transitioned to the QAD business system from the previous system that my group was using. And there was some functionality we did with Excel sheets that I think would mirror somewhat what the data loaders do, and that's why I'm asking, because on our side of the company, we get into some projects where multiple bills of material, multiple item master adds at one time, and it seemed more logical to do something like the data loaders than to sit there and hammer through each line.
Yeah, well, actually, I want to add, Alex, that most of the loaders which are SE are also EE compatible. It's just the financial part which is less compatible between SE and EE. So what you mentioned, item master maintenance, works the same in SE and EE. So the loader will work, and we have clients in both SE and EE.
Well,
The only difference is really in the financial module.
okay, and that's why I was asking, because I didn't want to start us down a path for that. You know, we're on SE currently, but if we transition to the EE, you know, then we have to look at another, you know, expense down the line.
No, I mean, again, most of the AC loaders work in EE, will work in EE. And
Okay.
it's covered by the maintenance. You don't have to, I mean, correct me if I'm
there's no
wrong.
extra cost.
Yeah.
As long as you're active on your subscription, then time you upgrade, you come with you know, upgrade plans and everything. We give you just another set of programs for EE, and you go, you know, you test before you cut over to, you know, go live with your new EE system, and then this is it.
And even for EE, we started working on some of them, like Alex mentioned, the GL transactions loader, the business roles, and the supplier and customer as a starting point. So they are a little bit different between EE and SE. So taking the same SE loader won't be the same in EE, but now we're starting to have more and more for specific EE specific, which is just, again, the financial side. But anything other from operations should work pretty much the same between SE and EE.
I see in your list there you got PCC, PCO. Can you go into the details of that, and is it usable with PCR?
We can adjust it for PCR. It just most of the customers of our customer who use PCC data loader, they skip PCR part and go with PCO directly. If you want, we can show you how this tool looks.
We have a webinar, actually. We have a replays of sessions. We can send you,
or we can set something up.
Or
we can set, it separately. It could be changed into to work with PCR, but we need to know exactly what's necessary.
Well, I'm asking because on our side of the business, we're using PCRs and then converting them to PCOs once we get the PCR approved. Our process is that a management team group approves the PCR. When that approval is finalized, you know, we convert it to a PCO to process through the system. And this is a little bit in flux because the parent group might be relooking at what they're doing on their side. They use the PCO portion, but not the PCR. But my group at LAO is using PCR to PCO. And seeing that there was a data loader, we have a young man that would have probably appreciated that last summer with 270 some items in a PCO.
Well, if you want, we can certainly have a call on this, Paul, and have Elena take you through the functionality of our current data loader and see how that can be adapted for PCR, like she mentioned.
Okay.
If you want to have a more detailed call, and like we've mentioned multiple times, the trials are complimentary. It's just an easy way to see how this works with your own data. It's much more effective that way. So, you know, if that's something that you're interested in, just let us know, and we'd be happy to set you up with a trial.
Well, I've been pushing for data loaders since July of 19. So once I became aware of them.
Oh, thank you.
That's when we transitioned over. So, yeah.
Anything we can do to help? I think Margaret, you had raised your hand earlier. Welcome, Margaret. If you're still there. Hey,
yes, I'm still here. And I just wanted to say, as a company that probably has what, 20 plus loaders for SE, and we just requested another test loader in the last couple of days, and you just supplied it today. I can attest that loaders work with SE, and we use them a lot. And yes, they're great about getting us free tests, trial versions of loaders, so we can test them and see how they work with our data. And we really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Margaret. Nice.
Thanks a lot,
Nice hearing
Margaret.
from you.
Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too.